RFI, 4th of November 2023, France is concerned as China fortifies its bonds with friends in the South Pacific. China has been providing high-interest loans with massive debt, and its traders are extremely prejudiced, demeaning the locals, robbing them, and mistreating them. According to a report released this week by an independent Australian think tank, Chinese funding to the South Pacific is increasingly directed towards the nation's political supporters in the area. This occurs as the US and China compete for influence, and demand for Chinese credit drops. As a result of better loan terms offered by US allies, particularly Australia, Chinese economic clout over the 14 Pacific Island states that rely on aid is waning, according to the Sydney-based Lowy Institute's annual survey of assistance to the region. With China signing a security agreement with the Solomon Islands last year, which increased the possibility of a Chinese naval footprint, attention has focused more on the strategic competition in the South Pacific. France and other regional stakeholders share concerns regarding China's regional influence. Researcher Daryl Morini claims that anti-independence elements contend that breaking away from France will inevitably result in New Caledonia being strategically dominated by China in a brief for the Australian National University. Diplomatic commitments. According to the article, China has expanded aid to both countries since the Solomon Islands and nearby Kiribati shifted their diplomatic allegiance from self-ruled Taiwan to Beijing in 2019. Through more diplomatic and commercial interaction, the U.S. has attempted to offset Chinese dominance in the area. President Joe Biden recently hosted leaders from the Pacific Islands at the White House. The most recent year for which the international policy think tank has complete data, 2021, saw China provide $241 million in total aid to the island republics. According to the institute, Chinese grants and loans to some of the most aid-dependent nations in the world have been declining since 2016, when they peaked at $384 million. This downward trend continued in that year. Based on new information, the most recent report updates earlier Chinese yearly contributions while keeping the declining trend. According to the paper, it reflects a strategic shift to reduce risk, cement political ties, and enhance capital returns. Since 2008, China has provided $3.9 billion in aid to the Pacific, mainly to nations that maintain formal diplomatic connections with Beijing. Cook Islands, Fiji, Micronesia, Niue, Papua New Guinea, and Samoa are a few of these. According to the research, China can play an outsized role in these countries that belies its moderate role share of total regional financing because it exclusively gives ODF, official development funds, to a group of Pacific countries. According to the report, China was just the third largest donor of help to the Pacific, trailing only Australia, which contributes 40% of aid, and the Asian Development Bank. China has donated 9% of the total since 2008. The primary reason for the reduction in Chinese help has been the Pacific government's lack of interest in Chinese loans, which has left Tonga and other Pacific nations deeply in debt. The United States has cautioned that Chinese funding can trap impoverished countries in debt, endangering their sovereignty. Riley Duke, a researcher at Lowy, stated, "What is very clear is that the interest from Pacific governments in Chinese loans, specifically infrastructure loans, has declined. It's just that we're outmatched." 20 years ago, China accounted for one-third of infrastructure investment in the Pacific region, however, that percentage has now dropped to half, according to the report. French issues. Macron noted that the small needed a big power to defend them against the incursions of the hegemon which come to take their fish, their technology and their economic resources in a speech in Papeete, French Polynesia's capital, in 2021. France has issued repeated warnings against hegemonism in the region. He made no specific reference to China. However, according to a 650-page report released by France's Defense Ministry, China has sway over the independence movement in New Caledonia. Paris continues to be concerned about China's increasing involvement in the Solomon Islands.